He thought the baby was his until he heard my friend mocking him behind his back. I am a 30-year female who is married to a 41-year male. I have a daughter who is 7 years old. Unfortunately, on my 30th birthday, my life turned into a suspenseful and thriller drama which I had not imagined. My husband got to know some earth-shattering facts about our marriage, which led to a drastic turn of events in my life. For my own sanity and security, let me just address my lover and my husband as just that. It is easier that way than to think of made-up names and try to keep up with it. This way, I can avoid any potential slip-ups or confusion in this long rant that I don't want to get carried away with. I can also ensure that my thoughts and feelings are accurately conveyed without any added complications. It also helps me stay focused on the message I want to communicate without distractions. Nicole was my best friend since high school. We had been inseparable since then and had done a lot of idiotic things together. I had called her over since my husband was away and my daughter was having a sleepover at her grandparents' house. Me and Nicole were chilling at home, having drinks and discussing all the shit that we had been through since high school. We recollected all the stupid and crazy things that we had been through all these years. I am not sure if it was the alcohol or the fact that we had a lot of time on our hands to discuss things that we hadn't spoken about in a really long time. We were having a lot of fun as there were things that we both had almost forgotten about. It was a nostalgic trip down memory lane, reminiscing about the good old days and laughing at our past antics. It felt like a much-needed break from our busy lives, allowing us to reconnect and bond over shared experiences. Nicole told me how I had frantically called her when I got to know about my pregnancy with a doubt that it might not be my husband's, which later turned out to be true. My husband had no idea that I cheated on him and got pregnant. My bestie, Nicole, was the only one who knew about my affair and my pregnancy, as she always covered for me every time I was with my lover. Nicole was my rock throughout the entire ordeal, offering me emotional support and guidance when I needed it most. I knew I could always count on her to keep my secrets safe and provide a listening ear during my moments of uncertainty. My husband had planned a big, extensive surprise for my 30th birthday, and I was super excited for it. I had overheard him saying that he wanted it to be of enormous shock value. It was very difficult for me to put up a straight face throughout the week, knowing that I would probably be getting a huge surprise that I had been looking forward to. I started dropping hints of what I would want as a gift so that everything falls into perfect place. The big day finally arrived, and I was super hyped. It started with bed coffee that my husband had prepared for me. It was delicious, and moreover, I loved the way he took an extra effort to decorate and make it look more romantic. I could already see the level of effort he had put into making this the most special day of my life. As I sipped on the coffee, I couldn't help but feel overwhelmed with gratitude for having such a thoughtful partner. The day was off to a perfect start, setting the tone for what was sure to be an unforgettable celebration. I made a mental note that I should demand something on the similar lines from my boyfriend when I meet him next week to celebrate my birthday. The evening arrived and I was sent a note asking me to go to a private designer to get dressed for the event. This was something that I wasn't expecting at all. I got there and was pampered like a queen, making sure that I was dressed for the occasion. The designer had picked out a stunning gown that fit me perfectly, and I felt like royalty as I stepped out for the evening event. The attention to detail and care taken in preparing me for the occasion made me feel truly special and grateful for the experience. I was asked to wait for more notes with instructions to enjoy the night to the fullest. I couldn't help thinking what more could possibly top this up. I was finally sent a note telling me that a car was waiting to take me to my destination. It was a limo with champagne and snacks to accompany it. I was more than pleased with my husband to take all this effort into making my birthday into a royal event. I went in and was amazed at the decor and the arrangements. It looked like a wedding and not just a birthday party. I could see close friends and family and also a few work colleagues that had made it to the party. I saw my husband on the stage announcing my entrance. Everyone had their eyes on me and I could see that they were blown away by my look. I saw Nicole up front, who gave me a reassuring look that translated into me looking super hot. I walked onto the stage as instructed and was seated at the center. There was a presentation with a trip down memory lane about how we met, got into a relationship, snippets of our marriage, and then my journey through pregnancy and finally giving birth. It continued with our first days with our daughter, and I was already teary-eyed looking at the amount of effort that my husband had put into making sure that this could be the most memorable day of my life. I couldn't control myself, so I ran up to him and embraced him into my arms. He said that there was more to come and that I should save my emotions for later. I couldn't even imagine what more he could possibly have planned to top this. Nevertheless, I knew that it would be something overwhelming. I kissed my daughter, who was also a part of the planning with my husband, and took my seat as requested by my husband. I was blindfolded and asked to sit on the stage where everyone could see me. I was waiting for something to happen. I could feel something near my lips, and I thought that he was just trying to kiss me, so I kissed him back. My blindfold was pulled out, and I saw my lover, the father of my daughter, in front of me, kissing me passionately. My husband was standing in the corner and just chilling, witnessing everything as if he knew. He started announcing that he would like to properly introduce the person kissing his wife to everyone who looked confused. He said to give a big applause for the guy who was the father of his wife's daughter. He was the one who had given her the joy of being a mother. My face dropped and turned pale. I realized at that moment that my secret affair had been exposed, and the consequences of my actions were about to unfold in front of everyone. The room fell silent as the truth sank in, and I knew that my life would never be the same again. I could not utter a single word from my mouth as I was too shocked to speak. All eyes were on me, and I knew at that moment that all this build-up from the past week was just to humiliate me in front of all the people I've known through my life. My heart was pounding in my chest as I tried to gather my thoughts and find a way to respond. The weight of the situation felt suffocating, and I could feel the heat rising to my cheeks as I searched for a way out. My husband then said that he was so naive and blinded by trust that he never once thought that his wife would cheat on him. The day when I had Nicole over, he came home early to surprise me, but we were so engrossed in our conversation that we hadn't realized that my husband had sneaked in that day and heard my entire conversation with Nicole. I had no idea about it, and once he revealed that he knew the truth about my cheating behavior and my friend helping me out all the time, that is when he decided that he needed to teach me a lesson. I had not seen it coming at all. I tried to look for Nicole in the crowd, but I was unable to locate her as my eyes were blurry due to the tears rolling down. I saw my daughter sobbing and holding my husband close to her, as if asking him to protect her from me. I felt a sudden disgust towards myself at that moment. I realized that my actions had caused pain to those I loved the most. The weight of my mistakes hit me like a ton of bricks, and I knew I needed to make things right. My husband then went ahead and told me that I was such a shameless mother that I had cut a deal with my lover to continue the affair if he had nothing to do with our daughter. I was willing to sacrifice my own daughter for my happiness and continue lying and cheating to my husband about our daughter. I was shocked and hurt by his accusations, as they were completely true. I did not want to leave my boyfriend and even agreed to lie to my husband about it being his child, just to continue my affair. I could see the disgusted look on everyone's face and the judgment in their eyes. My family was shattered and devastated by the revelations. I knew that it would be very difficult for me to try and make them understand everything. I knew that I had nothing to say in my defense, as my husband had never been bad to me. Apart from the fact that I needed sexual pleasure, I did not have any issues in my married life. He adored my daughter as his own, and not once did he ever doubt him not being the father. I was filled with guilt and shame for betraying their trust, but I also knew that I had to be honest about my needs and desires. It was a difficult conversation to have, but I hoped that with time, they would come to understand and forgive me. The party ended and everyone started leaving. My husband told me that I could leave with my boyfriend, as there was no place for such a selfish person in his house. He wanted to keep me away from our daughter, as he didn't want me to take advantage of her anymore. I was just sitting on the chair, still processing everything that had happened. I couldn't believe that a small trip down memory lane would lead to such a disastrous turn of events and my life would turn upside down. After a really long time, I looked around and couldn't find anyone. I tried calling Nicole and my lover, who were both ignoring my calls. I made my way to a nearby motel and stayed the night over. The next morning, I tried reaching my lover, who finally picked up after 2 hours of trying to reach him. He told me that I had caused him such inconvenience, and the only reason he continued to have this affair was because the fact that we had a daughter would remain a secret forever. Now that it was out in the open, he wanted nothing to do with me and cut all ties immediately. I tried calling Nicole, as I knew that she would be the one person who would understand me. She kept declining my calls, which made me question our friendship. She was the only one who knew the truth about my pregnancy and my daughter's real father. She sent me a text saying that it would be difficult for her to help me right now, as her husband had started having trust issues. Once things are a bit under control, she would definitely get in touch with me. At this moment, I understood that I was left completely alone to deal with the mess that I had created in my own life. I realized that no one else could fix the situation for me, and that I needed to take responsibility for my actions and make things right on my own. It was a sobering realization, but also a necessary one for me to grow and learn from my mistakes. So here I am writing this post to feel a bit better and get some clarity in life. Maybe doing this will help me think of everything that went wrong and make good decisions going forward. I would request people reading this post not to judge me and give any constructive advice if possible about how I should deal with this situation. Update. Since many people wanted to know how things worked out, here's a short update of the events that followed. I was devastated as I couldn't sleep for nights, as every time I closed my eyes, I could clearly see the disgust that my daughter had in her eyes for me. I would go to her school and wait every day so that I could get a glance of her and try to talk to her. She would always avoid me and walk past as if I were a stranger. I felt like a complete failure as a parent, unable to mend the broken relationship with my own child. The pain of rejection was unbearable, but I knew I had to keep trying to make things right. I had an idea that maybe making up with my husband would help me reconcile my relationship with my daughter. I might not have been a very good wife, but I truly loved my daughter and couldn't stand her indifference towards me. I knew that the longer I waited, the more distant she would get from me. I decided to take the first step and reach out to my husband to start mending our relationship. I hoped that by showing my daughter that I was capable of making amends, she would see me in a different light and be willing to reconnect with me. I made my way to the house where my husband had moved in with our daughter. My mother-in-law was helping him take care of our daughter since she was too young and still needed someone to look after her. I knew that having a conversation in front of her would be futile, as she never liked me from the very beginning. I texted my husband that I needed to discuss a few things regarding our daughter and that I would be waiting in a nearby cafe for him. I knew that this could be the only way I could convince him to meet me. After about 30 minutes, he showed up. I ordered his favorite coffee and asked him to take a seat. He looked disinterested and asked me to get to the point. I started by asking him if our daughter was okay and if she was doing okay at school. He told me that he was taking care of it and I should stick to what I had come to say. I took a deep breath and started my pitch of starting over. I told him that our daughter was too young for her to go through all of this unnecessary stress. Maybe we could work something out and make a fresh start as a family. I emphasized the importance of our daughter's well-being and how it was crucial for us to put aside our differences for her sake. I suggested seeking counseling or mediation to find a solution that would benefit all of us. He started laughing after listening to my 10-minute-long monologue. He said that he already knew that I never cared about this marriage or this relationship, so I should stop trying to fool him anymore. He asked me to quit the act of wanting to be a wife and a mother and start over. He told me that my ego was actually hurt seeing how my own daughter wanted nothing to do with me. He suggested that I seek help to work through my issues and become a better person. His words cut deep, making me realize the impact of my actions on those around me. He told me that he now knows me in and out and has every reason not to trust me even for a second. There was no way that he could keep his daughter away from him. This had made me lose all my cool, and I reminded him that she was not biologically his daughter and that there was no way that he could keep me, his biological mother, away from her. He told me that he would fight with all his might to make sure that I stayed away from her. Saying this, he left in a very angry mood, and I was pissed at the way he spoke to me. Just like that, I don't know how my effort to go and reconcile turned out into an ego challenge where we both were adamant on seeing who gets to keep our daughter. It was a heartbreaking situation that escalated quickly, leaving us both feeling hurt and misunderstood. Despite our differences, I still hoped that we could find a way to prioritize our daughter's well-being above all else. I was sent a court notice for divorce, which I was expecting. Along with it, I also received a custody trial paper for my daughter. I somehow knew that I would not be winning the divorce case to reconcile. I at least wanted to win custody of my daughter and show my husband that no matter how hard he tried, I was still her biological mother. As expected, I lost the divorce case with 0 alimony due to my infidelity. I was kind of prepared for this outcome, so it did not shock me so much. The court trial started for custody. It was a messy affair. There were allegations flying around about me hiding the fact that I was aware right from my pregnancy that this baby did not belong to my husband, and I still continued to fool him all these years. Emotions ran high as the truth came out in court, with both sides presenting evidence to support their claims. The judge's decision would ultimately determine the future of the child caught in the middle of this tumultuous situation. My husband had submitted proof that I was an irresponsible mother who left her daughter regularly at her grandparents' place to meet with her lover. There was no reason for me to get custody, as my husband was still taking care of my daughter's expenses and livelihood, even after knowing that she was not his daughter. This shows that he is a responsible parent, and also the kid is more comfortable staying with him. I had no source of income or a decent place to live with a child, so I could not be entrusted with a child. What if I run away with my lover, leaving my daughter alone at home? I did not have anything to counter it, apart from the fact that I loved my daughter and she was biologically mine. At the end of the trial, I was devastated as the judge and jury deemed me unfit to take care of my own daughter. The verdict was that love alone is not always enough to provide a stable and secure environment for a child. It is important to consider the well-being and best interests of the child above all else. Seeking legal advice and discussing custody arrangements may be necessary in this situation. My lover, who was the biological father, had disagreed with taking care of me and my daughter, as I had never asked him to take charge of being the father. There was a recording that he played where I was boasting about how I fooled my husband, and he would never have to worry about taking care of my daughter as long as my husband stays in the dark. That was the only reason he had continued to have an affair with me, as he never wanted to be a father. I knew that this would paint a very negative picture against me, showing that I never cared about my daughter's well-being even before she was born. It exactly played out the way that I did not want to. I was broken after the trial. I had no one I could share my feelings with. My lover had left me stating that I had suddenly become too clingy and too needy. He wanted no strings attached, and now I was dragging him into my own mess, wanting him to be the father that he never wanted to be. He wanted nothing to do with all of this mess and asked me to stay away from him. I felt lost and abandoned, with no one to turn to for comfort or support. The pain of rejection was overwhelming, and I struggled to find a way to heal from the heartbreak. I tried reaching out to Nicole for some comfort, but she started ignoring me. She later sent me a text stating that her husband had warned her to stay away from me as I was in trouble. They had been having trust issues ever since my affair was brought into light. She told me that she was very sorry for not being there for me, but she had no other choice if she wanted to save her own relationship. I was hurt by her response, but I understood that she needed to prioritize her marriage. It was a difficult situation for both of us, but I respected her decision to focus on repairing her relationship with her husband. I did not want to cause problems in anyone else's life anymore. Right now, all I feel is lonely, guilty, and depressed with my life. I constantly find myself questioning my decisions and feeling overwhelmed by the weight of my emotions. It's hard to see a way out of this darkness, but I know I need to find a way to heal and move forward. I have to try and be strong and try to make amends with my daughter, so that slowly but surely I strengthen my relationship with my daughter. I need to seek help and support from loved ones or a therapist to work through these feelings and find healthier coping mechanisms. Taking small steps towards self-care and forgiveness can help me gradually rebuild my sense of self-worth and connection with others. Thank you everyone for being a part of my journey so far. I know I am to blame for my downfall, and I am aware of all the consequences for my actions. I do not want any more hate or suggestions telling me that I deserve all of it. I am taking responsibility for my mistakes and working towards making things right. Your support and understanding mean the world to me as I strive to grow and learn from this experience.
I always used to underestimate karma. People would say karma is real and slaps back, and I always just thought it was all a big joke. I believed that not all actions had consequences, and that sometimes, even if you did the worst thing in the universe, you would not get any bad payback. Until it happened to me. I'm currently homeless and living in a motel. I did the most horrible thing ever. I betrayed my husband trust, or should I say ex-husband, since we're getting a divorce. I not only cheated on him, but I also vanished with my affair partner. Now I am back and my husband no longer wants me back. He has kicked me to the curb. I know you're wondering how I got here, so let me give you my backstory. My name is Sasha, and I am a 29-year-old woman. I am married to Connor, a 29-year-old man. We like in the United States and have 2 kids. Ryan, our eldest, a 9-year-old boy, and our youngest, Felix, a 6-year-old boy. Connor and I have been married for 5 years. Connor and I met and fell in love in the crowded chaos of our high school, where lockers banged and kids chatted like there was no tomorrow. My world bumped into Connor's. Literally LOL. He was the genius everyone knew, acing every class without breaking a sweat. Me? I was just a regular girl with a knack for getting through the day without being bullied. So as time rolled on, me and Connor went from high school to college. When I hit 20, we had our first kid, Ryan, a little ball of happiness. The sleepless nights and diaper changes were tough, but his first steps and laughter made it all worth it. Fast forward 3 years, at 23, we added another member to our team, Felix. Our little family was growing. and our place was filled with the noise of two energetic kids. Juggling college and parenting wasn't easy, but we made it work with late-night study sessions and a whole lot of teamwork. Graduating from college wasn't just about getting a piece of paper. It was a big deal for us. It meant we stuck together through the ups and downs, from high school hallways to sleepless baby nights. Looking back, our story was like a quilt stitched with love, growth, and the chaos of raising a family. The challenges of college and the joys of watching our kids grow strengthened our bond. So, when we hit 24, Connor and I decided to tie the knot. Getting married felt like the natural next step in our journey from high school to becoming parents and college. The whole wedding planning thing was a mix of nerves and excitement. We picked a venue, wrote vows, and figured out who to invite, all while trying to keep things true to who we are. Our big day wasn't just about traditions, it was about making it personal, reflecting us as a couple. Surrounded by friends and family, we said our vows. Promising to stick together through thick and thin had a realness to it that went beyond the words we spoke. The ceremony unfolded like a mix of laughter, tears, and memories that led us to that point. Going from a couple to a married duo brought a whole new level of commitment. The rings, the promises, it all felt like a solid foundation for what came next. Our families, our stories, and now our shared path as husband and wife. After the big day, stepping into married life felt like a continuation with a fresh start. Sharing a last name, figuring out this husband and wife thing, it was all new, but it was us, together. Married life had its bumps, not always a walk in the park. Connor, as you know, is super smart. He aced college, became a surgeon, and raked in a good amount of money. He even had a side hustle that practically ran itself. So financially, we were solid. He covered all the bills and owned the house, a gift from his mom, but only his name was on the deed. The whole house only in Connor's name thing bothered me, but it was a gift, so I had to bite my tongue. Dealing with Connor's mom has been a bit of a roller coaster from the get-go. Even back in high school when we were just dating, she never really warmed up to me. Things took an interesting turn when we decided to tie the knot. She insisted that my name shouldn't be anywhere near the house deed. To make matters more interesting, she had me sign a prenup before marrying Connor. Weird, right? But I didn't let it bother me too much. I loved Connor for who he is, not for his money. So I went ahead and signed the darn thing. Now, when it came to the house, she vehemently stated that if my name went on the deed, the fancy house offer was off the table. So we ended up with only Connor's name on it. It wasn't an easy pill to swallow dealing with all this family drama. But come on, a 7-bedroom house with a home theater and a pool? Who'd say no to that? I bit the bullet and accepted the deal, even though it felt like a bit of a trade-off. Connor's parents, they're well off and like to shoot for the stars. Since high school, they've been pushing him hard to be a high achiever, and they were the ones who nudged him into becoming a surgeon. And I'm guessing they never really liked me because I was never an overachiever. Connor thought it'd be great for me to be a stay-at-home mom. Nice idea, but I wanted a bit more. I snagged a job related to my degree. Nothing too crazy, just something to keep me from going stir-crazy at home. Our differences led to some tense moments, but we figured it out. The house hiccup made me grumble a bit, and I let Connor know. He got it, apologized for pushing the stay-at-home thing, and we moved on. Connor, being a surgeon, was pretty much always tied up with work. But hats off to the guy, he really put in the effort to be there for our kids. And you know what? It worked. Despite his crazy schedule, the kids didn't feel his absence much because he genuinely tried so darn hard. On my side, like I said before I snagged a job, nothing too fancy or stressful, just something to break the monotony of home life. The workplace wasn't a giant corporation, but it wasn't a tiny shack either. It was a good fit. My coworkers were cool, and in no time I became part of the gang. After work, we'd hit a nearby bar for drinks or sometimes grab dinner together. Making these plans needed a bit of coordination, especially with the kids at home. I always made sure there was a babysitter or a relative ready to step in. And if I was running late, I'd shoot them a message, keeping everyone in the loop. Things were going well at home until this guy from work, Scott, started acting a bit off. We both started our jobs together but ended up in different departments. Then, out of the blue, Scott wanted to switch to my department. I didn't get it. His department was good, so why make the move? I wasn't close to him, and asking would feel a bit nosy, so I just let it slide. Surprisingly, HR approved his request, and there he was, now part of my department. This whole thing left me scratching my head. Why the sudden interest? What was his deal? However, I let it go as I felt it didn't concern me. Of course, I was wrong, LOL. Before I go on now, let me tell you, I adore my husband. No doubt about that. But appreciating beauty is something else, right? Scott the guy was a looker, blonde hair, blue eyes, the whole handsome package. He fit the classic stereotype of good looking. Plus, to top it off, he had this posh British accent that we'd sometimes playfully tease him about. I thought Scott and I were just messing around with some light teasing, you know? But then, things got a bit weird. Scott started being way too nice, like extra nice. He'd always grab something for me during his lunch break, and I usually work through mine, making sure it was exactly what I liked. If he went for a drink, bam, he'd bring me a coffee, perfectly how I take it. But that's not all. Scott took it up a notch, doing these little helpful things that kinda caught me off guard. He'd tidy up my desk or make sure my computer was shut down if I forgot and left early. These small gestures were nice, sure, but they got me thinking. Was this just being super friendly? Or was there something more behind it? The line between good intentions and, well, maybe too much attention started to blur, leaving me a bit puzzled about what was really going on with Scott, and to be honest, I liked it. So, Scott wasn't just nice, he was like super attentive. Every morning, he'd hit me up with compliments. "You look beautiful. That earring really pops. That dress suits you so well." That kind of stuff. His compliments became a daily thing, and I gotta admit, they got to me. I started putting in a bit more effort into how I looked, secretly hoping for those sweet remarks from Scott. The attention? Yeah, I was all about it. Other girls at work were trying to get Scott's attention with some flirty moves, but he shut them down like a pro. Yet here I was, not even making an effort to flirt or anything, and he was handing out attention like it was free candy. It was a bit surprising, but honestly, I kinda enjoyed being in the spotlight without even trying. Scott's attention made me feel special, and no matter how much I tried to play it cool, I couldn't deny that I was digging it, maybe a bit more than I should have. The dynamic with Scott continued, and truth be told, I didn't take any steps to make him stop. Sure, I could have reported him to HR or something, but I didn't. Why? Well, I was basking in the attention and I genuinely enjoyed it. However, my willingness to let things slide came back to haunt me one day. It was a coworker's birthday, and we opted for a low-key celebration at a bar. I gave my husband a heads up, letting him know I'd be running late due to the celebration, and he was cool with it. And Scott joined us for the outing. As the night unfolded, the drinks flowed, and I must have had a bit too much. In my intoxicated state, I crossed a line with Scott, something I didn't even realize until the next morning. I had gotten so drunk I snuck off the bathroom of the bar with Scott to have sex. So basically, I cheated on my husband with Scott. I was so out of it that I couldn't even drive, and Scott ended up dropping me off at home after our indiscretion in the bar's restroom. He concocted a story, claiming our co-workers elected him to take me home because I was too drunk. My husband bought the story, thanked Scott for being a good guy, and I woke up the next morning with the horrifying realization of what had transpired. Guilt and regret flooded over me as I came to grips with the fact that I had betrayed my husband. I was freaked out, honestly. I couldn't help but wonder if my husband somehow got wind of what went down. And if he did, would he ever be able to forgive me for that colossal screw-up? The guilt and fear were eating at me so bad, I needed a day off from work to deal with the mess involving Scott. I couldn't even face him. How could he? But truth be told, I couldn't entirely blame the guy. We were both wasted. And if I'm being honest, there was a part of me that kinda enjoyed it, which just added a layer of guilt to the whole situation. The next day at work, Scott had the nerve to approach me, and stupidly, I fell for his smooth talk again. He spun this story about how what went down wasn't wrong and it wasn't my fault. Blaming it on both of us being drunk, he then dropped the bomb that he'd love to keep it going. Classic move. He also threw in the line about my husband not measuring up in the bedroom, and against my better judgment, I bought into it. Our bedroom struggles with my husband were real. His crazy schedule, balancing work and dealing with the kids, meant he had little time for me, leaving me unsatisfied. I asked Scott for some time to think, and he reluctantly agreed, But by the end of the day, I made a dumb move. I gave in to Scott's persistence and agreed to have a secret affair. Looking back, I know what I did was really dumb and heartless. If I could go back, I'd undo it, but that's just not how life works. So let me continue. Scott and I got into this secret affair. It felt wild and liberating. I stopped bothering my husband for intimacy because, well, Scott took care of that, and it made me feel happier. This secret thing went on for a few weeks until Scott hit me with a bomb. Out of nowhere, Scott says he's not cool with sharing me and drops the bomb that he wants me to leave my husband. It caught me off guard. He's asking for a divorce. I hesitated, pointing out that was crazy, but Scott wasn't having it. Instead, he floats this idea of us taking a few months off to go to Spain, something he claims he's always wanted to do. I'm shocked. Being the practical one, I ask how we could even afford such a trip. Scott's genius plan? Dip into my husband's money. My husband was rich after all, was he not? However, I immediately explained to Scott why it would be impossible to take the money from my husband. My husband was rich, yes, but we had separate funds. He took care of all the bills, and so we never really had a need for a joint account. So we keep our funds separate. Of course, he buys me stuff, and when I need money, he always gives me, but asking him for a huge amount so I can leave and travel to Spain is just not going to happen. Now, this is where it got even more nuts. Scott suggests we combine our savings for this grand adventure. Logically, it made zero sense, but Scott's had this knack for making the dumbest ideas sound like pure genius. Against my better judgment, I got hooked on this wild dream of a thrilling life with Scott and the promise of Spain. So, like I've said before, it was literally a very dumb idea. Somehow, had this knack for making the most idiotic things sound like the deal of a lifetime, and I fell for it. I decided to cash in on some diamonds my husband had bought me. These gems were no joke, pretty pricey stuff. Selling them brought in a good chunk of money, but we were hungry for more because, Spain isn't exactly cheap. We handed in our 1-month notice at work, snagged our final paychecks, and then with the cash from the jewelry and our savings, we had a pretty decent pile. The plan? Leave in about a week. I packed a bag, kept things on a low, and threw in only the basics, like clothes. Scott held on to all the money we had. During that week, reality hit me. I felt a surge of emotions because, I was about to leave my kids and my husband. My husband even picked up on my weird behavior and asked me about it. I couldn't spill the beans, so I had to put on this act like everything was peachy. I didn't even let him in on the fact that I quit my job, knowing he'd want an explanation. Luckily, he was super busy, making it easy to keep our grand escape under wraps. So fast forward a week, and there I was, jetting off to Spain with Scott, literally leaving my family behind for some escapade with my affair partner. Yeah, I know, heartless move. Please don't judge. I was just being downright stupid back then. If I could rewind time, like I've said before, I would. But, life doesn't come with a rewind button. Anyway, let's get back to what happened. Scott and I landed in Spain, and within 2 of me leaving, my husband was blowing up my phone. Texts like, "You've been gone almost a day. No calls, no texts. What's going on?" I realized I couldn't keep ignoring him. He was already threatening to go to the police, and I didn't want that drama. So I sent him a text, telling him to never contact me again, that I had taken off to Spain with my boyfriend, and I had no plans of returning. Then I blocked him. The first few months in Spain were a blast. We explored, had fun, tried all the local dishes, you name it. It was an adventure, and honestly, those initial moments were pretty amazing. Here's the deal. If you keep splurging money without replenishing it, you're bound to hit empty pockets eventually. And that's exactly what went down with Scott and me. After a few months of living the high life in Spain, the reality check hit hard. Our funds were running dry, and we had to face the music and head back home. I guess I never really pondered the consequences of my actions until the point when returning home became a stark reality. Our extravagant lifestyle left us with barely enough to last more than a day in Spain and still afford a flight back home. So, we made the call to get our plane tickets and hightail it out of there as soon as possible. So, after being away for months, reality hit hard when we got back. And guess what? Scott decides to end things right there at the airport. Classic move, right? "We had our fun, but I'm getting a bit bored. Gotta move on," he says in that annoying British accent of his. Dumped at the airport, and suddenly I've got no place to go back to. Obviously, my husband won't be rolling out the welcome mat, especially after flooding social media with pics of me and Scott living it up in Spain. While we were off on our adventure, both sets of parents and friends tried reaching out calls blowing up my phone. But I stubbornly dodged every call. Now, freshly dumped at the airport, I realize none of them are likely to take me in, not even my own parents. With nowhere else to turn, I start dialing up my friends, hoping against hope that someone will lend a helping hand. But of course they shut me down, some even scolding me and telling me to be ashamed for abandoning my family to globetrot with my affair partner. The weight of my poor choices starts sinking in, and tears start flowing because, let's face it, I messed up big time. In a desperate bid to salvage something, I dial up my husband, but he doesn't even answer. Fueled by regret, I scrape together the last bit of cash in my account and find refuge in the cheapest motel I can find, telling them I'll probably stay for about a week. Panic sets in. I'm desperately trying to reach my husband, missing my kids, and fully aware that I've messed up royally. I'm firing off multiple text messages, no response. It's as if my little fantasy world has crumbled, and the harsh reality is smacking me in the face, exposing the sheer stupidity of my actions. That night was a mess of tears. Trying to get back to some sort of normal, I called up my former coworkers to see if they'd heard the gossip and if there was a chance I could go back to work. Well, the news of me cheating and running off with Scott had spread like wildfire at the office, and it seemed like my chances of getting hired again were pretty much zilch. I was officially in a tight spot. Then, out of the blue, my husband gives me a ring. But surprise, surprise, it's not to patch things up. Nope. He drops the bomb that he's calling to talk divorce proceedings. Cue the tears as I beg him not to go through with it. But he's having none of it, pointing out how I can't expect forgiveness after ditching our family for a global joyride with my boyfriend. He insists on meeting at a restaurant, promising to text me the address before hanging up. So, there I am at the restaurant, ready to face the music. I try to hug my husband, but he's having none of it, tells me not to touch him. Disappointing, but not unexpected. No kids in tow, and I get it. After what I pulled, they probably don't want to see me. Cutting to the chase, my husband hands me divorce papers. No beating around the bush. He lays it out. Signing these papers is supposedly in my best interest. And here comes the kicker. He's gunning for full custody of the kids, leaving me with supervised visits only. I'm shocked. Why supervised? Why can't I just have normal visits? Does it mean I can't even take the kids out anywhere? He explains that, yep, I need his permission for any outings. After my previous stunt running off with my boyfriend, he's dead set on avoiding a repeat and me running off with the kids this time. He says he's ready to take it to court to keep my visits supervised. Tears and whimpers escape me, but my husband shuts them down without a second thought. He unloads on me like never before, expressing the hurt and heartbreak I've caused. According to him, forgiveness isn't even on the table. He lays it out plain and simple. I should be ashamed, and showing my face here was a mistake. The harsh truth hit me so hard, he pointed out that I abandoned him and the kids, gallivanting around the world with my boyfriend. He told me that if I thought I could just waltz back into their lives, then I'd better think again. He emphasized that they've moved on, and the idea of reconciliation is nothing more than wishful thinking. I was still crying, saying sorry, but my husband wasn't budging. The house was in his name, no two ways about it. We had a prenup, and since he got the house even before we officially got hitched, well, I couldn't even try to claim it. The prenup, made to protect his stuff, was another thing. Plus, I knew ditching my husband and the kids to jet off with my boyfriend wouldn't exactly win me sympathy points in any courtroom. He told me to sign the divorce papers, making it clear that fighting it was a lost cause. After settling the bill, he hightailed it out of the restaurant, leaving me to face the fallout of my actions all by myself. I had not just lost my family, but potentially any financial leg to stand on. The meeting with my husband happened yesterday, and it has left me holed up in this hotel room, still a wreck of emotions. Reality's hitting me hard. I'm in a tight spot, and the options aren't exactly a walk in the park. It's either reluctantly scribble my name on those divorce papers now, or gear up for a legal brawl that, let's be real, seems like a lost cause. Deep down, I'm well aware that even the slickest lawyer can't magic away the mess I've created. As the weight of it all sinks in, the need to lock down a job is glaringly obvious. The idea of facing life's uncertainties, maybe even hitting the streets, is a daunting prospect. And so I find myself pouring out my story, not just to vent, but hoping someone out there might pick up a lesson from my wild misadventure. Cheating, that seemingly thrilling detour, has turned into a disastrous route for me. So here I am, a living proof of the golden rule. Don't cheat. It's just not worth it. I'm urging others to take this message to heart and steer clear of choices that could wreck relationships and spare them the agony I'm currently wrestling with.